Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics and Random. Egberto, Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today. I think I do have one video for you today. It's a TikTok, actually. But we are going to get into a whole lot of stuff today, my peeps. We are going to get into a whole lot of stuff. Anyway, how are you doing? How's everybody doing? Welcome aboard. Michael Rudnin from, I think it was number one again on the chat from Brooklyn, New York. Paul Fleming in from Powder Springs, Georgia. Yvette Avery Herod, Atlanta, Georgia. Paul, I got Paul already. We also have Lee Grant from Montgomery County and the one and only Harry Denson from Missouri City, Texas. Welcome aboard, guys. And of course, in the chat, missed the first few, but we've got Kevin Sasams, Kimberly Cueto, Cheryl, L. Joseph Rosas III, Craig Owen, Suzanne Graveman. Adam says, hi, Egberto. Adam here from Western Pennsylvania, Western PA. Hey, I'm going to be in Philadelphia for the Netroots next year. Maybe we can meet in person. Anyway, there's also Teresa Drini. How you doing, Teresa? Great to have you on in the chat with us. And to all those that are listening as well elsewhere, welcome aboard. And the one and only, my good friend, J. Ray 713. Happy Taco Tuesday. How you guys doing? Hey, I want to ask a question and maybe some of you can answer in the chat. You go and you give a speech, right? Let's say 20, 30 people. And people just love it. And they like what you're saying. And one person says, you went too long. You went too long. Ta-da-ta-ta-ta-ta. And, nothing ever really bothers me too much. But as I'm driving back, and by the way, let me tell you where it comes from. I went out to give a speech to a group of retired organization. They wanted me to come out there and give a little talk about Medicare Advantage, etc. So I said I could do it, but I had to just give the speech and then take off and leave after maybe answering a few questions because, again, I had to come and do this program. And, I'm a stickler for folks who are expecting this program to start at 3. I want to be here at 3 every day, and they expect the program at 6 in the morning. No matter how late I go to bed, I'm going to get up and do that program. But anyway, people loved it. They loved it. But interestingly, one woman, just said, you went too long and you went on other subjects. And you know me, I believe in constructive criticism and I believe in also trying to be better at what you do. If somebody has something to say. But then the person next to them was saying, don't listen to her. She doesn't. But even as I'm taking all the kudos in and what the person is saying, don't listen to her. On my way home, I constantly thought about, I wonder why she told me that went too long and jumped on another subject or something like that. And, and I guess the question is why human nature too often concentrates on the negative, why they concentrate on the negative. And I'm talking about myself as well, right? You teach yourself not to do it, but every so often you fall back. And today I think I fell back. I will always self-critique, always. And I always love constructive criticism. Not what I said, constructive criticism. It makes all of us better. But it kind of reminds me, and I hope I saved off that TikTok because this TikTok that I saw, I think it was last night that I saw it. I want folks, and I'm coming to read your stuff in a minute, guys. I want you all to, I hope I saved it. Please, Egberto, hope that you saved it because after I felt that little feeling there of, why am I thinking about what she's saying so much? And it turns out I didn't save it. Damn it. Well, maybe. Let me see. Maybe I did it in light. Nah, I didn't save it. I wish I did. But as it turns out, when you have to be very careful that you don't over concentrate on a negative vibe as opposed to just moving forward with all of those that are given positive affirmations, etc. And that comes from me as well. If for some reason I am out there and somebody is contesting me and I kind of get too negative with them and I hope somebody will say, hey, come on, that's not how it's done. That's not how it's done. Anyway, let me get busy. El Señor Raddin says, The Independent. Bodies of more Israeli hostages returned after Palestinians killed for breaking ceasefire. Red Cross receives bodies, Israeli military says, as truce appears at risk. Health authorities said that the fatalities had occurred across two separate incidents, including a drone strike. Two separate attacks. This didn't take long for the IDF to continue their behavior. It's just like I said earlier on my morning show. I don't expect this to last at all. Another one from Michael, WBEZ Chicago. Neighbor shielded 7-year-old during South Shore federal raid. I didn't want them to take her. During the September 30th raid, one tenant protected a terrified girl and her mom. Remnants at the complex, including a detailed map of all the units, offers clue to what authorities may have known before the night. We've reached the Anne Frank stage of American fascism. And from Paul Fleming, Fox says the tariffs, 10% for lumber, 25% for cabinets, vanities, upholstered furniture. On January 1st, the tariff for cabinets and vanities increased to 50%, all the rest of the furniture to 30%. The cost of building materials has increased 34%. There is a concern that this is not going to be great for the home buying industry. I've got to sit back and think, what the hell is Trump thinking, right? I've got to, it's almost like he wants to destroy the economy. Either that or he wants to have a bribed economy where people individually come off and pay him. He gives people waivers, we'll see. But what he's doing is, I find it crazy. Anyway, the phones are going to be open for the entire day today because, like I said, I went and gave a speech today. I'll probably process that speech and play it tomorrow or so. But the phones are open all day, 281-823-7747. Again, that is 281-823-7747. You know who we haven't heard from in a while? And I'm looking through the scroll and I haven't seen it. Patrick. Patrick is usually a regular in our chat, and I haven't seen Patrick in a while. I think it may be time for me to drop Patrick a line sometime soon. Anyway, the number is 281-823-7747, 281-823-7747. I'm going to put that in the chat if anybody wants to call before I get started with the program. Again, that is 281-823-7747. Let me put call in number there. Just call in number. Para ver dónde está. Aquí está. All right. That's a call in number. Anyway, you guys should see me racing out of there. It's all the way down past downtown Houston. And I live out, 20 something miles away from downtown Houston. And then another 5 or 10 miles the other side. And I'm like, oh God, I got to make the show. And I'm flying through the entire freeway. All right. The first TikTok that I want to, the TikTok that I have here to show is this young lady. And one of the reasons I wanted to show her, because in her context, I think she did such a good job in the way she presented it. So let me go ahead and make sure that it's all set up. And I think it is. And I am going to put that on the screen now and get her playing.
Slavery was way worse than they ever even taught us. And that erasure continues to day. I'm okay with schools and museums teaching that slavery was a very bad thing. Because the reality, they didn't teach us how horrific it truly was. Frederick Douglass once said if he had to choose between death or returning to slavery, he would choose death. That is how brutal it was. During the antebellum period, enslaved mothers had their babies ripped from their arms and auctioned off to strangers. If those mothers protested, they were whipped until their bones showed. The Middle Passage, ships packed human beings like cargo, months across the ocean, with death rates as high as 23%. And yes, cargo was insured like property. Black mothers were forced to breastfeed white babies while their own children starved in their arms. Some of those babies died while their mother's milk kept alive the very infants who would grow up to inherit them. And lynchings, they were not just murders, they were festivals. White families gathered to watch, posed for photographs beside the mutilated bodies as if it was entertainment. So when Trump complains that museums like the National Museum of African American History talk about how bad slavery was, or when groups like PragerU push kids' cartoons saying that slavery is no big deal or better than being killed, that is not education. That is erasure. Here's the truth. Museums do not make America weak. Erasing history does. Every time someone says woke, what they really mean is stop teaching things that make racist people feel uncomfortable. The truth is, slavery is uncomfortable, but facts don't care about feelings.
Now, I tell you what, I am listening to this. She came onto my For You page. And there's just something in the way she makes talk about the subject of, what Trump is doing to quiet down, to change museums, the book burnings, all these things. It was funny because I'd spoken about that a day before. And here this comes in my For You channel. And I'm like, oh, this young woman, very young woman, said it so well, that I said I had to let her have the floor because she's so good at it. Anyway, Bruce says, you and my other friend and I all agree on Israel being inhumane. Yeah, and I don't know what we do about it. Eric, no, I didn't drop Brian from calling at all. The station may have something to do with that, but I have I don't hide from anybody. All right, let's see. Carl Cox, Egberto, you have a tendency to condemn and others for disagreeing with you. This makes you a progressive opposite of MAGA. We won't respond to emails. I see the point in your podcast. Okay. Carl Cox, you say something. Call in and defend yourself. The phone lines are open. I think you're completely wrong about that. And nobody condemns you. Yesterday, I made a comment about you. Carl Cox, my dear brother, I think you said you were gone for good the last time as well. Feel free. I love all my listeners, but if you decide that you get your feelings offended because we disagree with something that you have to say, I can't help that. I'm sorry, you were simply wrong, Mr. Carl. In fact, I even used our conversation on my show this morning. You should look it up in the archives at KPFT or wait for me to post it here at KPFT. I cherish all my listeners. I cherish all my followers. But my God, brother, if you get mad and decide to pick up your marbles and leave, you're acting exactly like the stereotype many have of you. And when I say you, I don't mean you personally, but that person who believes they are entitled to just have everything go their way. And if they say something that disappoints them, they go. I can't help that. I can't help that. LBW, our professora, is in the house. Welcome, sis. Joanne is in the house. Chuck Penacchio. ¿Cómo estás, Chuck? I guess we'll see each other a little bit later, right, Chuck? You should call in and talk a little bit about it if you have the wherewithal to do so. The number is 281-823-7747. It's in the chat. In fact, I may still have it in my paste that I can put it there. That's the number in the chat, Chuck. Chuck Pinacchio. Chuck is the president of One Payer State. And by the way, Chuck, you'd be happy to know that I just came home to the studio from a talk on Medicare Advantage and Medicare and why people should stay away from Medicare Advantage. And, I did a poll of the room. And believe it or not, most of the people in the room that were of Medicare age were on Medicare Advantage. I found that very, very, very scary. And, I understand why some people have no choice. But I tell you what, Alvaro gave me an interesting story. And the story that he gave is a story that they're telling a lot of these people. And it went like this. I am on Medicare Advantage because of Medicare, that 20% doesn't have a cap. And he was absolutely right. But the Medigap program solves the cap issues. So just thought you might know. Bruce also said we try to stop the inhumanity through encouraging the current government to put pressure on the bad guys. I agree with you, Bruce, 100%. What else have we got here? Anything else we got here? All right. The story that I wanted to cover today should be quite interesting. Let me go ahead and pull it up right now, and then I'm going to put it on the screen because this is important. Vámonos, ¿dónde estás? ¿Dónde estás? Vamos a luchar para esa. Está aquí para read later. And I go to I'm a Proud Conservative. And I go to the website and I put it on the screen. I want to talk about this. And let me just say that one of the reasons Chuck Pinacchio, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing well, brother. How are you doing, Egberto?
I am doing fine. Let me first introduce you. Chuck Pinacchio is a good friend of mine. He is a lobbyist in Washington, D.C. He's the president of One Payer State. He's working on Medicare for All in a different incarnation, since he understands that it may not happen entirely nationwide. He's working with states that are willing to do it now. How are you doing, Chuck?
I'm doing great, Egberto. Yeah, looking forward to going up to Toronto for a Labor Notes conference this weekend and connect with our brothers and sisters organizing north of the border against fascism. Great.
So tell me about what else you're up to these days. We have a slight delay.
Yeah, I think so. What else am I up to? I'm doing quite a bit of writing and educating around the problems that we face, the challenges that we face, both from an historic perspective, because, I've been studying this topic since I was in my late teens and, educated myself up, was a college professor for many years. And this is a moment of opportunity. It's not one that we should find ourselves in a state of paralyzed terror, but rather we need to see how we get on the other side of this chaos, this coup d'état, and how we will build a justice for all world by connecting with brothers and sisters in all social justice movements and beyond, people who share our values, people who want to see a better world. In particular, want to see a healthcare system that actually delivers what we need when we need it at a cost that we can actually handle. And so, as you know, as you've educated your own listeners, the concept of single payer, one payer, Medicare for all, the same thing, is designed to provide the necessary efficiencies to strip out the waste, fraud, and abuse that makes it impossible to get to universal health care. And we need to restore our public health care system as well, which is being strip mined, as you know, by this current administration.
Well, yeah, I have your website on the screen for everybody to see right now. Folks, that can be found at onepayerstates.org. Onepayerstates.org. It's an important organization doing some work to really educate folks on the need for Medicare for all. And I can tell you, Chuck, that's what one of the things that I spoke about is a lot of the people when I was talking that were actually on Medicare Advantage, I could see in some of the faces, I had to be careful in the way I spoke about it because you don't want anybody to feel like, oh, man, I went to Medicare Advantage. Now I'm stuck, which isn't the case, right? The case is there are ways off of it. If the plan goes away, you can still get on without underwriting. There, and one of the things I wanted to do was to inform people of those kinds of things. I mean, if they have it right now, well, you have it right now. There are some people that they don't have a choice. They have to go with it. But the thing about it, what I was pointing out, because there's also a couple of people there that says, hey, I have Medicare Advantage and it's working great for me. And all the things are roses. And what I made sure to let them know is, as things are roses for you, because they are roses for you, it means it's quite a bit less for others because of the way our system works. Even if you have Medicare Advantage, please be working with people like Chuck Pinacchio and others for Medicare for all. And you say, brother.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, our theory of change, the way that we're going to get to Medicare for all, and we call it improved and expanded Medicare for all, because the existing Medicare system does have inadequacies. There are holes in it. We need to create an actually comprehensive healthcare system. Even the Canadians to the north don't have a completely comprehensive system. Dental care, vision care, mental health. I mean, those are deficiencies, and we need to, Pramila Jayapal's bill, Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal's bill, which matches perfectly with Bernie Sanders' bill in the Senate. Those are arguably the best pieces of universal health care legislation in the world. We just need to get there. And how do we get there? Our theory of change is that we need to model it in 1, 2, or more states, and also to get states working together in regional collaboration. Right now, as you know, you may want to share with your audience here that there's a unified effort happening on the West Coast and on the East Coast, from Delaware to Maine and from California to Washington, to deal with the crisis in child vaccine schedule, right? Because Bobby Kennedy, HHS, CDC has abandoned our children in terms of directives and support for critical vaccines, that would prevent absolutely crushing illnesses. So states are actually taking the lead at this point, and I think that this is an opportunity to bring our conversation in, which is, let's go all the way. Let's create an actual universal healthcare model on the West Coast and the East, and let's bring it to Texas. Let's bring it to all parts of the country.
That kind of ties into something. LBW, one of our teachers in the chat, she says, one of the things that keeps me going is the idea of building a more humanist society on the other side of this craziness. And that humanist society includes a lot of what you're working for. Medicare for all. It includes a lot of what others are working for. A social safety net, basic income to mitigate things like AI causing the loss of jobs due to efficiencies. There's so much we can do to prepare on the other side, so that eventually even those that are blinded by the hate, blinded by privilege, blinded by all these things, can actually come along.
Absolutely. LBW, we're in unison on this. We have to vision the future. I call it radical visioning, which is seeing a future of universal justice. So you included a lot of other topics, of course, housing and climate, education, all those topics that you mentioned and that I added here need to be part of the mix. So for us, it's not simply healthcare for all. It has to be health and healthcare for all, which also includes restoring our democracy, making a robust democracy that's focused on bottom up, which is participatory democracy. We have to look at this opportunity right now to build, to organize, to connect, and to educate ourselves and others as to what is absolutely possible in this country. And, when the United States goes wrong, the rest, it's like when the United States sneezes, the world catches a cold. Right now, we're doing worse than sneezing. We're helping to spread totalitarianism across the globe. We have to reverse that. And I believe that our doing that will help reverse the trend in that direction of totalitarianism, fascism across the globe. So there's a lot of work to be done, but we need to see that by coming together, as you do on your program, in the works that you do, and educate. We're still looking forward to having you tonight on our program. If you can spread the word, we'd love for folks to come in to our meeting tonight with One Pair of States. It's our second Tuesday meeting with Egberto tonight. That'd be awesome. That information's up on the website.
Yeah, you know what, Chuck, I have your website on the screen right now. If you could also put inside of the chat, if you get a chance, inside of the chat, a link that people can put in that can come out to the program tonight. I think the program starts at, as I recall, 7 Central, right?
Let's see. Yes, 7 Central, 8 Eastern,
right.
5 o'clock Pacific. That's correct. Yeah.
And folks, if you look at the screen.
I need to jump off my phone again on my
Got you. Thank you, my brother. You have a good one. Excellent.
All the
Excellent.
best to you and your folks. Take care.
Sure, folks. Have a great one, buddy. That was Chuck Pinacchio on the line. If you take a look at the screen, he's the president of the organization, and I have the board of directors on the line that's working with this very rather impressive organization, if I must say so myself. I want to add something to what our sister Sandra D is saying. Sandra says they can change to Medicare within 1 year of getting Medicare Advantage, and that that after that can't change. Before I went to give that speech this afternoon, I did a little bit of studying, and because I want to make sure that I'm giving these people accurate information, right? And let me tell you what I learned. And actually, I just learned this. I knew the basic, but I just learned this today. Some exceptions here. Let's say you are in a rural area. One of the reasons that I tell people don't even think about going on to Medicare Advantage if you can avoid it is because if for some reason that plan doesn't turn out to be the one that you thought it was, you are stuck and you cannot get back onto traditional Medicare unless plans are not available in your area. But here's the kicker. This is a kicker. If you are forced off a plan, if you are forced off of a plan that you wanted, in other words, the plan goes away, you can at that point get back onto traditional Medicare, and you don't have to go the underwriting for the Medicare, for the Medigap program. That is so very important. Because if you have a pre-existing condition, if you have all these illnesses, etc., then you cannot. Because let's back up. You can at any time you can sign up for Medicare again. You could always sign up for Medicare again. The problem was that 20% will kill you. Because Medicare only covers 20%. You still have to buy something called a Medigap to cover that 20% if you don't want to pay it out of pocket. So everybody gets a traditional Medicare, and then they pay for the Medigap insurance Medigap insurance so that they can get full coverage. But if you don't want to have to get pre-qualified for that, meaning underwritten for it, you can then, only if they change a plan, let's say you're in a rural area and your plan disappears and nobody else is there to give you Medicare Advantage, you can get your Medigap again without having to be underwritten like before. It's like you turn 65 all over again, where they have to accept you. So I was able to tell all those Medicare Advantage recipients that loophole that gives them the ability to go back to Medicare if they happen to have a change in plan that they didn't try to get. In other words, that they were forced to. So that's your back door into it. But the best thing to do is never, ever sign up for Medicare Advantage. Now, that said, there is one, there is a sad case, right? If you simply don't have the money, the extra money for a Medigap, and you can find a Medicare Advantage program that has no deductibles, no copay, it would be evil for me to tell you, well, you just have to find a way to pay. I mean, it would be wrong. There are times when, in as much as Medicare Advantage is bad as a policy, there are times it's the only choice. What I'm trying to say is, if it doesn't have to be the only choice for you, just that you can save a little bit of money by going to Medicare Advantage, I would like to tell you that there are two things that not doing that save the country. Number one, not doing that saves you because you get more than substandard healthcare. When those people are going in with zero copay and zero this, a lot of time that is at the expense of quality healthcare. The buildings may look nice, the room may look good, but you're a number as far as they're concerned, and they cannot give you the service that you desire. And number two, the more people get onto Medicare Advantage, the more it weakens traditional Medicare to the point that eventually the plutocrats may pay off the government to say, you know what, let's just do it the Medicare Advantage way. Right now, my study today told me that Medicare Advantage is now at 54%. In other words, it's a 54-46 split. We got to reverse that. We've got to reverse that. Anyway, the story for today is, and let me get to the story for today, is an article that this conservative woman wrote. And it's funny because I got this. I've been getting a lot. If you follow good folks at TikTok that are doing good news, you get a lot of stories there as well. And this one is from a guy that I picked up on TikTok. Let me go to Sandra first and say mission critical activities and updates related to Medicare open enrollment will continue during the government shutdown. Some other updates on the website may be delayed or limited. Your Medicare benefits and coverage will continue as before, and you can go to your doctor and access the healthcare services you need. About Us Medicare is health insurance for people 65 or older. You may be eligible to get Medicare earlier if you have a disability, end-stage renal ESRD, or ALS. More than 66 million people in the U.S. get their health coverage from Medicare.gov. Thank you very much for that. Let's see. Also, LBW say, as a teacher, I'm constantly having to have faith that the future will find the heart to fund a more perfect union. That is why, personally, that's why I do what I do. Because for me, it's not faith, Sister LBW. For me, it's not faith. For me, it is making a reality. Okay? That's what it is for me. For me, it is actually making things happen. I am not going to sit back and wait. I am going to be a part of the actual solution. And let me just say this. You being here and participating in what we are doing, and I want to say this as honest as I can, you are being a part of the solution. As you bring concepts that you write in these chats and other read what you write, and they share what you write and they instantiate what you write, you are actually a part of making the change. And it's like I told the group today when I spoke, all of you out there have to exponentially duplicate yourself. And you do that by talking to 5, 10, 15, 20 people and inform them, enlighten them, and ask them to do the same thing. And if we continue that flow and ask them to ask the others to do the same thing, speak to 10, 20 people, and each of those speak to 10, 20 people, etc. If we do that, we don't need the mainstream news media, but we have to have the discipline and we have to have the follow through to talk to people and work on them doing that. And we can do that, but we can never stop. We can never just hold back and say, well, somebody else is going to do it. We have to do it ourselves. One of the reasons I drove out there, I got a call a couple weeks ago and said, Egberto, my group is meeting. We meet once a month. And, this is a Medicare time. Can you come and give a little talk to them? And I'm like, what time? 12:30. I'm like, but my show is at 3:00. I got to, And she says, okay. I said, I tell you what. I called her back. I tell you what. If you can let me in to do it first, I can do it and drive back in time to do the program. What I'm saying is that all of us have a role. And whether that role is sitting down behind a computer, whether that role is doing what I'm doing, talking behind a mic, and when possible, going out there and being a part of informing and talking, it is something we all have to do. And you know what? A lot of you, I'm looking at folks in this chat right now that a lot of you are doing it. My brother is in the chat, brother from another mother, that is Bruce Pollard. I'm going to embarrass Bruce a little bit. I know he doesn't mind me saying Bruce has MS. And, Bruce and I go back a long time. Our daughters were schoolmates. They played together in school. They went to school. They all went to college. Our kids are grown now. And, most of the times what you find is when, after your kids are grown, the parents that used to be cool, they're no longer all that together. Well, me and Bruce, we had a good, I think it's probably because we're both nerds, maybe. I don't know, engineer. I'm the engineer. He's the scientist. But he would always call and say, I can do this. I want to do something. And he has always been doing. He has always been out there with us at KPFT, helping out at KPFT with Politics Done Right. He's one of our great contributors to Politics Done Right as well. But also Bruce, even as his MS sometimes acts up on him, we flew off to Netroots together to kind of check out Netroots a couple years ago. But he's still being a part of the solution. And that's what I'm talking about. We can all play our part in this role. But anyway, let's get to the story. Maybe the lady was right. Sometimes I talk too damn much. I don't know. Maybe she's right. Anyway, the title of the article I want you to see is I Am a Conservative. My disabled son needs Medicare to live. And she starts, I'm a registered Republican who just watched her party spend much of the summer pushing through new cuts to Medicaid. I'm also here to tell you why I am unlikely supporter of the program. My son's life depends on government assistance. Recent cuts to Medicaid, both the federal and state levels, mean millions of families like mine could soon be at a loss for how to care for our disabled loved ones. But wait a minute, didn't Mike Johnson say that the $1 trillion cut will only affect, let me see how he said it. Those lazy people in the basements and those illegals, quote unquote illegals? Isn't that what they said? In February 2021, during a routine ultrasound, okay, I won't read this part, but in effect, her son was born with a partial brain and a cleft that actually has some brain tissue that comes into his mouth, etc. But while they expected the kid to die, and she didn't believe in an abortion or anything like that, they expected the kid to die. The kid lived, and it's 4 years now, and the kid is still alive. And she has been getting a check from the government to take care of her son. And her son have been getting Medicaid for his health care. So not only was Medicare taking care of her son's medical bills, Medicaid was also paying her to take care of her son. Now, by the way, I want to say, I am all for that. I believe in that. Unfortunately, Republicans don't believe in that. The new law says able-bodied people can go out there and at least work. I think it's 20 hours a week or something like that. What I'm trying to say is the level of hypocrisy, indecency, and inhumaneness, even as she comes across as sympathetic. Look at her title. I am a conservative, which already says I don't want handouts. I don't want this. I don't want that. But my disabled son needs Medicaid to live. But it's not only Medicaid she's asking for. It is a check that she gets to take care of her own son. And while I am for that, unfortunately, people like her normally had not been for that. But anytime something happens to a lot of these conservative MAGA Republicans, they suddenly want support. They suddenly want support. But only for them. Only for them. And you know, this isn't anything new. When we got Social Security, when we got all these other programs, it was always for a special subset of people. They wrote the laws in such a manner that it was only for a subset of people. So now it's not only Medicaid that she's losing from the federal government, but her state government as well in North Carolina is reducing by quite a bit of money, the amount of money she gets. So she's complaining about that. She says, I'm going to have to lose 8% of what I'm getting. And then you ask again, wait a minute. Aren't you supporting the party that is doing all of this? And didn't you say you are a proud conservative and all that entails? Please make this make sense to me. Tell me these people can't look in the mirror and see that they're not only hypocrites, but there's a point where hypocrisy turns into more than hypocrisy. It turns into selfishness because she wants what she thinks she deserves. Care for her son, which I think she deserves as a society. And also, she needs support for herself so she can support her kid. You know, when my daughter got her 2 strokes, that was the most painful part of my life. I can tell you this. I had never felt pain like that in my life. A 29-year-old young woman in the prime of her life in medical school with a stroke. And then in her 3rd year of medical school to get a second stroke, this one massive that really put her down, that caused me to move to take care of her in DC. She had insurance from the school. I had insurance from my wife's job, right? But the fiscal pain that occurred, and look, the thing about it, I made it through. Right? Made it through. Had to support 2 households, both in DC, which is very as hell expensive, and here. But we made it through. We even built a studio. Well, we didn't build a studio. You all built a studio. Because when I had to move to DC for 1 year, I came and I said, hey guys, got to rebuild a studio here. Can we do it? And you know what? You guys did it. But on the idea of living expenses, I know what that woman is going through with that son of hers. I know when she looked at her disabled son, I can empathize with her that even as she would deny others support, even as she would deny others healthcare, even as she would deny others the ability to live, as evil as her stance has been, I still want her to have healthcare for that son, and I still want her to get that check to support her son. I really do. I absolutely really do. And that's what I'm talking about. We have to try to put back into people's hearts what empathy looks like. Adam says, just like when Reagan was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, all of a sudden, Nancy and the portion of his family that were strongly against stem cell research became the strongest proponents. Amazing, right? Marge KJ says she grew up in an authoritarian family where dad was king. They seem to have empathy for other people, especially they seem not to have empathy for other people, especially minorities. North Carolina, a little bit better than South Carolina. I hear you, girl. I hear you. All right, Michael said, yep, it's always the Republican Party that blocks social welfare spending. Yet Republican voters keep voting for Republicans who block their needed social welfare. And why? So the minorities don't receive that social welfare as well. You know, while there's so much truth to that, it is a dangerous truth. Hey, Harry, what's up?
Well, what's up is you got me thinking like you always usually do. What you're talking about is correct. These people, the Democrats need to get their way on this. They need to get those Medicaid cuts rolled back, and they need to have those subsidies extended. And people like Donald Trump and Megyn Kelly and all these crazy Republicans. I wonder if you ever saw a movie called Baby Jane, Egberto. I think it came out in the 50s.
No, I didn't.
Well, there was this Betty Davis, I think, was in there, and she pushed her aunt down the stairs. And the point I'm making with that is that's what these Republicans would like to do. If you cannot afford to pay out of pocket with your own money, you don't deserve Medicaid, and you don't deserve traditional Medicare either. In other words, as my brother Alan is always saying, if you can't afford to pay, you can't afford to stay in this country alive. Now that is just evil and wicked and cruel, and it's that Betty Davis in that movie. She kind of had a screw loose, but that's what they'd like to do, or what my mom told me years ago when we were first learning about, well, what did they have before they had Medicaid and traditional Medicare? What happened to old people? And this is what my mom said. Well, Harry, they just pushed them off the cliff.
Yeah.
I don't think that's entirely fair.
That is exactly right, Harry. That is exactly right. Can you hear me? Yeah, that is exactly right, Harry.
Yeah,
you know, the thing about it, Harry, is, again, when you read the article, you can see where she's saying she wrote the article not for others. She wrote the article for herself. And notice that she said, I am a the title starts, I am a conservative, but I deserve to have my son taken care of. I deserve to be taken care of. And, you know, even the title, and I know a lot of times the author of a title in a New York Times isn't responsible for the title, but usually they pass it by you. But the title was so bad. But anyway, thank you for calling, my dear brother.
One more thing. Can I say one more thing?
Yes.
Can I say one more thing real quick? It's when you mentioned Patrick. Patrick, whatever's going on with you, I hope everything's fine. We need you back on the morning show or the afternoon show because we need your intelligence and insight. And I guess, Egberto, Brian must be hiding from you He must be afraid of the education and the edification that you're trying to teach him, because he is still calling on Bible still. But maybe he's gotten afraid of you, and he's tired of you proving him wrong most of the time.
It's not that. I think the station has actually, not have him on my show.
Ban him from calling yourself.
I think so. Look, let me tell you this, okay? I don't ban people will tell you. In fact, Michael Rudden gets mad at me on the chat a lot of times because I don't ban people. If you take a look at the chat, you have people in our chat that spew right-wing junk, and what I tell people is ignore it, or just where necessary to refute it. But I like open conversation, and my expectation is that eventually something is going to hit them right, and they're going to see the light or something. So no, I don't ban.
People, Egberto.
Right. I'm not banning
You're trying to reach people, no matter if they disagree with you or not. You are a good kind of and a great dad. For that period you had to deal with your daughter and the strokes, and I commend you for being the great dad that you are. But you're always trying to reach people, whether they disagree with you or not, and that's a good thing. So you can try to open their mind, even though they're against your politics. You get them to try to think and critically think, as you're always saying.
That's what we got to do, brother. Look, I appreciate you. Tell Alan I say hi. Have a good one. Take care.
Yeah, he's coming back from dialysis now. I'll tell him he said hi. All right.
Take care now. See, I love my callers, man. And I try my best to remember who the folks are, and there are folks that I haven't heard from 10 years ago. They'll come in and I'm like, hey, where the hell have you been? All right. Michael Radid says, there's only one idiot in the chat here who can't be reached at all. I can't. Michael, I don't use that word even when I read it, I try not to read it out, but you got me on that one. You got me, Michael Radid. You got me. So I said the bad I word on the radio. I'm off to cut it out. Nah, I won't. Brother Brackens, come on in, my dear brother. What's up? Brother Brackens, you're on. Okay, something happened to Brother Brackens. I imagine he'll call back in a little bit. Call back, Brother Brackens. Anyway, hey, guess what, guys? One of our resident MAGA says that I can't do math. So maybe you all need to teach me some math. All right, I think I got you now, Brother Brackens. Talk to me.
Yeah, first of all, I want to tell you, Egberto, you don't talk too much. Keep talking.
I appreciate you, brother.
Second of all, I want to just kind of end the show with saying, I love how you highlighted that article on that lady who's, against social programs, but finds herself in desperate need of social programs. And that kind of brought me to another thing I wanted to end off with, and that's the awakening of Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Oh, yes.
And one of the things that I heard about that from her mouth exactly is that not only is she holding her own party accountable for all of the gridlock, and that's saying a lot, because you got to remember this was the woman coming into the halls of Congress wearing a mask that said Trump won. So she was definitely not in the same reality, and it seems like one day she just woke up and said, you know what, I'm going to sound like a sane person today. And that kind of
you're right,
she took her meds eventually. So but I say all that to say that, she also mentioned her children were suffering at the fact that there wouldn't be subsidies available. And it's like that lady, like you said, Marjorie Taylor Greene said, my children will suffer if this bill doesn't get through like we need it to. So I need my party to fall in line and make these subsidies stay on for the next go round. And, you're right. It's unfortunate. We are always fighting for things that's going to help them out anyway, and they fight it tooth and nail, but eventually they're going to take it anyway. And that's what I hate about a lot of Republican lawmakers. A lot of times when they vote against something, they'll go to their constituents and brag about how much money they brought to the district. And it's a shame, but what can we do except just keep on telling people what they actually need and just letting them know, hey, if this happens, you benefit from it too.
You know what's the other good thing? I want to add to that, brother. And let me tell you, and I'm glad of sort of what you said, right? Let's give people a place to land. In other words, Marjorie Taylor have been one of the most caustic, difficult, many times dumb, best described by our congresswoman here from Texas. You know who I mean. But if she comes around, and a lot of people won't like this, but if she comes around and she's helping move forward with humane policy, where she works in that fashion, we shouldn't shun her. We should bring her into the fold. And when she does the stupid things or the things that are evil, we take her out of the fold. I mean, I think we have to be matured enough to meet people where they are, and where we can use folks for good policy, do that, and not just say like we have to have that payback. Now, here's the one thing that I think we can't compromise on, and that is when we have reached status, when we have gotten to the point where we normalize things, there has to be a price to pay for the damage that they've done. But thank you so kindly. I'm getting a little bit of noise, so I'm going to cut you off and let's talk tomorrow. Okay, brother?
All right, brother. Take care.
Take care. Peace.
See you tomorrow.
And LBW says the infrastructure bill that every single GOPer voted against, and they show up to the project, act like they supported it. Exactly right. All right, folks, this is the end of the program. I want to ask you guys to please remember to support us however you can. The easiest way to support all the projects that we do is to become paid subscribers of our newsletter. And how do you become a paid subscriber of our newsletter? You go to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. And if you become a paid subscriber, all those books that you see scrolling on the screen right now, you get a chance to read all of my books, again, free of charge on Substack for being a paid subscriber. And, you know, on the weekends, we give you special shows. Most of the times, the last few weekends have been like over busy and under the gun. But you guys know what I feel about you. You guys know what we're all about. I want to thank you for being here. I know it's an honor to have you all here with me. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out. All of our country's problems, from polarization to ignorance on domestic and international issues to a complete misunderstanding of our economic and healthcare systems, are a direct result of a derelict mainstream media that too often bend over backwards to support corporate or bought politicians' wants as opposed to the people's needs for real information to make their lives better. Independent media is the only solution to inform truthfully and factually. Why? Because our loyalties are to you, the ones who fund us with small dollar contributions and subscriptions. Please consider supporting our independent media platforms by subscribing to our Egberto Off the Record newsletter at politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. Again, that is politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. It's an investment that pays incalculable dividends.